Hi, everyone. Evan Woodnorth from Deutsche Welle, right over here, Germany's public international broadcaster. I'm joined today by Mr. Peter Obi, the former governor of Anambra State in Nigeria. Mr. Obi, welcome. So, I'm going to start out with a stat. 77% of the African continent, of the population of the African continent, is under the age of 35. That means you're working with a very young continent. What can this young generation of Africans in Nigeria do to take action on these sustainable development goals?
Well, if you look at the most of the goals, it really concerns them. So they have to be, for me, an advocate to ensure that these goals are achieved. Because it is about them. If you're talking about poverty, if you're talking about hunger, if you're talking about economic growth, work environment, it is about them. It's more of, they cannot allow it to fail. Because if it fails, it affects them directly. So they have to be an advocate of it.
And what can you do to be an advocate? How specifically can you be an advocate? They have to ensure
that they have this good government all over Africa. They have to ensure that all the SDG goals are domesticated into the various country development plan. If you look at what happened, the reason why African states failed in the MDGs is because they did not domesticate the agenda into their development goals. They have to ensure that that happens. Just look at what happened with China. They domesticated all the MDG goals into the agenda. And that is why they succeeded. That needs to be done by the African countries. And these young ones need to be like an expert advocate to ensure that this happens. Because with that, they will achieve the SDGs.
But how specifically can these people from the younger generation take action? I mean, how can they be activists? And I know they want to be advocates for the Sustainable Development Goals, but what can they do?
Through various means. There's the elections. They have to make sure that the right government is elected. They have to make sure that government programs run as stipulated. Those of them who are working have to fight various ills of governance in Africa, like nepotism, corruption, everything. They have to be, like a gadfly to make sure things don't go wrong.
Does that mean activism? Does that mean marching in the streets? What are we talking about?
It's not just marching on the streets. It's just, for them, there's so many ways in which they can be involved. For example, like I said before, when the election comes, they have to go and vote and make sure the right persons that voted into government, make sure they follow up whatever development plans the government have. Make sure, like I said, the agenda is domesticated in the government planning, and follow up the planning, implementation, measure whatever the government is doing and be part of it. It has to be, I don't know, there's so many ways, because if it fails, it will take its revenge on them. They want jobs. They want good life. So they have to make it happen.
Alrighty. That was Mr. Peter Obi, the former governor of Anambra State in Nigeria, talking about sustainability goals and what Africa's youth can do to make them happen. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Obi.
Thank you.